All right, sorry for the delay. My bad. I was trying to get my screen share together. Anywho, welcome to Conversations with Coco. I am your host, Coco, and we're back with another conversation. So today we are going to be looking into the past a little bit, looking into the very, very near future, a lot of it, and talk about the Black vote. So we're going to start out with watching a short special report on a 1964. It's called the Negro Voter. I know. We're going to work our way through it. We're going to work our way through it. But we're going to peer into the past at a very historical, pivotal moment in our history and kind of tie it into today and talk about kind of where the Black vote is going in 2022 and all that jazz. So I'll let our panelists introduce themselves. Let us know where we can find you on social media, and what interests you about having this conversation. And again, my camera's over here, but y'all over here. So we're going to work with it. We're going to get it together.
You still ain't move it.
I moved it a little bit over here. So I don't know. I'm packing, so there's things everywhere. So, yes. What y'all got for me? What y'all got for me? Well, I'll fix the thumbnail on this side of my things.
Sunny La Luz. You can reach me, Sunny La Luz, on all of my platforms. I'm on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. I also have my own webpage. I run my own business. You can Google Sunny La Luz LLC, and you will see all of me.
I am Colorful Story. I give American history facts through the Black American experience as a former educator who is over the U.S. education system the way it is. So you can find me on TikTok, CF Story, and everywhere else, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Colorful Story. I also have a website, www.colorfulstory.com. That's 2 L's in colorful. And what interests me about this topic. So if you've been following me, especially on TikTok, then you know that the voting experience here in Texas has been a hot mess, especially with those who are currently in power. Greg Abbott, I'm talking about you. It's been trash. And so I have been wanting to get voters correct information as much as possible. Sorry about my background noise, y'all. I have been wanting to get voters correct information and making sure that those who follow me are registered to vote, making sure that they're knowing who their representatives are, knowing how to find out that information, and also challenging these candidates to hold them accountable for things that they're said they're going to do for our communities. That includes the ones that we want to vote for. We're going to put you in there, but we want to make sure that when you're in there, you keep doing what you said you were going to do.
Absolutely. So you can find me, Coco the Lawyer, on all social media that I have it on. I don't even know. Was it TikTok, Instagram, something like that? I wanted to have this conversation mainly because I think the sentiment in our community is that we think voting is important. We just don't necessarily know how to vote or how voting works. So I think we kind of get lost in the sauce. We kind of do it because I feel like we feel historically obligated. But I don't see that we're actually too knowledgeable on the whole entire process. So yes, I've done a little series on voting. Haven't done as much as I could have, but you know what? We're here now. Okay, we're here now. So that's why I want to have this conversation. I think the Black vote is very, very important. I think we have so much voting power, and I think we can do a lot of great things if we were all on one accord. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the documentary, or the special report rather. And
wait, before you turn it on, I forgot to mention why I wanted to join the conversation. My bad.
Oh, yeah.
The reason why I wanted to join the conversation is that ever since joining TikTok, man, it's been over 2 years. I fight for the right for voters to be educated, links in bio, but I also talk about the important propositions, the different elements that go into voting, because it's not just, I think people think that you're just there to, well, my vote doesn't count, I'm only there to elect a person. They don't think about the referendums or the addendums to state constitutions or ordinances that will have an immediate direct impact on their lives. So that's the other reason why I wanted to join this conversation. I have been talking about voting a lot and making sure people get registered. And now we have to talk about safety. So that's the other reason why I wanted to join.
Absolutely. All right. So let me.
It was in 1962 that I tried to register the 31st of August in 1962. And I had worked as a timekeeper and a sharecropper on a plantation for 18 years. I was fired that same day. And the man that I had worked for said they wasn't ready for that in Mississippi.
It seems as though every time the Republicans gets in, that the wages go down and the work gets scarce and everything, but as soon as they get in a Democrat president, everything begins to boom.
I wouldn't see, no, I wouldn't vote even if I had the opportunity to vote.
Why not?
But I don't see where either party would do, either party is benefiting the mass of people any good whatsoever.
I think there is still a good deal of apathy that we have to grapple with in the Negro community. We see this both north and south, and I think it is a job that must be done.
The National Educational Television Network presents Of People and Politics, 21 programs about the way Americans perpetuate the political system under which they live. Now, The Negro Voter, with Richard D. Hefner.
Since World War II, the Negro in America has become increasingly conscious of his political rights. In 1944, the whites-only primaries in the South were abolished, and Negroes began to vote in the South in meaningful numbers for the first time since Reconstruction. Of course, they had long since exercised this right in the North. And now in 1964, after 2 decades, in most parts of the country, the Negro's right to vote, like any other citizens, is an accepted fact. And of course, the Negro's voting power can be listed among his most important assets. In 1960, the Negro vote was highly important. Some say it swung the presidential election to John F. Kennedy. The Negro vote is becoming a crucial element in determining who has political control in our cities and indeed throughout the nation. Yet the Negro vote is a great and intangible factor in this presidential election year. How will the Negro vote in 1964? Will he vote in a bloc? Will race be his prime motivation? Will he go Democratic? Will he perhaps vote Republican? What does the Negro voter want?
Well, I may not particularly approve his leadership, but I would vote certainly for Mr. Powell again because he is the ranking Negro in Congress. He has a great deal of influence, and I like this, and I think that more Negro people should see a man in leadership position.
You cannot make political gains unless you deal with the people who have access to the power. And every politician knows this, and until the Negro in the South becomes aware of his true influence and the devices available to him, he will be electing Negro candidates who will be seat warmers.
I think the Negro tends to vote for the candidate naturally whom they think is going to do the best that they can for the Negro and his needs. But I also think that that's true of white people, too.
The Negro voter, like the white voter, votes his interests, economic, social, political. He votes against the man who would push him around or who would deny him economically. He votes for the man he thinks is friend. Yet Negro voting influence varies. It depends on where you live, South, North, border state. And it depends on Negro numbers. 3 areas of the country represent 3 stages of the development of Negro voting power. Mississippi, where Negro numbers are great, but where Negroes still find it difficult to exercise our most basic right, the right to vote. The liberal North, where Negroes have been able to vote freely for years, but where Negroes are a comparatively small percentage of the population. The border areas and parts of the South where Negroes have the voting rights of the North within the racial conditions of the South, and where Negro numbers are great. Mississippi, 42% of the population is Negro, though white adults outnumber Negro adults 2 to 1. Only 6% of the Negro population votes. In Forest County, there are 14,752 Negroes. 12 are registered voters. Whites fear young Negroes. Charles Evers, brother of the assassinated Medgar Evers, has taken over Medgar's old position as leader of the Jackson, Mississippi NAACP chapter. What does Charles Evers think about the progress of voting registration?
At the present, voter registration is very slow. We're having many difficulties in trying to get Negroes registered.
Why?
You see, in Mississippi, the population is practically half of Negro and half white. And through this, in certain sections, we have much more resistance from the whites.
What would happen if Negroes in Mississippi got the right to vote tomorrow? Pulitzer Prize-winning Mississippi newspaper publisher Harding Carter.
Fight. And in those beats, those precincts, those other political subdivisions, where the Negro outnumbered the whites, the Negro would elect the Negro. And elsewhere, the whites. This is not true in my county. I don't think it's true. I know it's not true along the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, where the Negro votes, but almost everywhere else it would be strictly racial and bitter.
As it is, racism is a part of Mississippi politics. Mississippi politician and state treasurer Bill Winters.
Constructive approach to the problems of our state without bringing in a great many issues that frequently amount to dragging dead cats across the path of the voters. I think there's a certain amount of bitterness, it seems to me, that is expected of a candidate for governor on certain issues.
Why is that? And what kind of bitterness?
Well, it is a part, of course, of the age-old technique of using the race issue to attract votes.
Negro political participation in Mississippi will come in some distant day. In the State House of Mississippi, 3 Negroes, candidates for congressional office, tread on marble and register their candidacies in offices which have been off limits to all but Negro janitors for close to a century.
It says that upon the hearing of a primary election contest or complaint, this deals with the other section that Brenda was mentioned, that if you feel that you have that there's been something has gone wrong
this, sadly, is a political meeting in Mississippi. The candidates plan their campaign. The woman is Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer from the poverty-stricken Mississippi Delta. Does she think she has a chance to win?
No.
Why are you running?
Well, you see, all the people are not elected. You know, all the people was not. What I mean is Whitten, the man that is congressman now, all the people didn't elect him because Negroes wasn't allowed to vote.
You anticipate much white opposition?
I do.
Do Negroes ever get intimidated or shot at because they run for public office?
They get shot at without being running for public office, so I don't think I have no other choice, because they shot into a house 16 times for me after I just tried to register the first time.
Do you think Negro leadership would help cure poverty?
Yes, I think so.
Why?
Because don't anybody want to see his fellow man or his brother down. I mean, we don't actually want to take anything from the white person. We just want what's actually ours, what have been ours so long. And we are ready for it, and we want that now.
This is Mrs. Hamer's kickoff campaign meeting.
Thank you very kindly, Mr. Magnar. And most of the people know me and know what I try. What is happening in the state of Mississippi, they are doing all they can to force the Negro out of the state of Mississippi. The type of education that we get in in the state of Mississippi. We couldn't go to no other place in the North and get a decent job. So the thing we gonna do, we went to bed last night as old black Joe with our heads hanging low. But this morning, we woke up a different Joe. Our head is not hung down anymore. And some of these things that Mr. Whitten is putting down, we gonna try to change it.
The church we visited in Mississippi, in which Mrs. Hamer held her kickoff campaign meeting, has since been burned. In the North and in many parts of the South, unlike Mississippi, Negroes have been able to vote freely for years. They can run for office freely. They have all the legal rights that any citizen has in the American democracy. Negroes are falling into a pattern common to many big city groups. They tend to vote Democratic because they think that party is more responsive to their needs.
Well, at least, to my opinion, everybody has a better chance with the Democrats than they do when the Republicans are in.
Who are you going to vote for in 1964?
Johnson.
Why?
The best candidate in the South.
You ever voted Republican in your life?
No.
Who do you usually vote for?
The Democratic Party all the way.
Kennedy got over 70% of the Negro vote in 1960. Johnson is expected to do as well. In every national election since the 30s, except 56, when many Negroes voted for Eisenhower, Negroes have voted strongly Democratic. Why? Former Postmaster General Fawley.
Well, I think that many of those came into the party. They were always Republicans, but they came into the party in large numbers, and then later on in larger numbers after Mr. Roosevelt was elected. Mr. Roosevelt did everything he could to be helpful, and in his first administration, he made appointments, and he gave every evidence that he looked upon the Negro people as being overlooked, so to speak, and he did everything he could to aid them, and he brought them, in my judgment, into the Democratic Party, where they are now in large measure.
Do Northern Negroes vote in a bloc? Democrat and Manhattan Borough President Edward R. Dudley.
I would doubt it. I have not discerned any evidence of bloc voting apart from some local school issues in small communities in the North. You would probably find some of this. But generally speaking, I would think that the Negro is going to vote as an individual. The fact that a great majority of them will vote one particular way simply means that the issues of the day and of the time in that particular community would direct the great majority of them to vote this way.
The Democrats solidified their hold on the Negro vote in 1948 at their national convention. Southern Democrats walked out of the convention due to strong pressure for a pro-civil rights platform. They nominated South Carolinian Strom Thurmond as the Dixiecrat candidate for the presidency, and Harry S. Truman ran on a pro-civil rights platform. To the surprise of many, despite the split in his party, Truman won. Negro voting power is strong. Political leaders often balance their slates with Negro candidates. Edward R. Dudley on the effect of Negro voting power in New York.
Well, first of all, I think the effect has been to make it impossible for other than, to use the term loosely, liberal candidates to be elected to office. This is one of the effects. And depending upon the issues that we're talking about, it would be impossible for a man to run on a segregation platform here or anywhere near here and get any votes. He couldn't be elected dog catcher.
Presumably, Negro voting power has a more subtle effect than Judge Dudley suggests. But the ballot box is colorblind, so that in each election, national or local, considerable effort is expended to get as many Negro votes as possible. But what effect does all this effort have in the Negro community? Negro voting participation is well below that of any other key American group. In 1960, some 81% of eligible whites voted. In the same year, only 54% of eligible Negroes voted. Why? A former aide to Martin Luther King, Jim Wood, now news director of a chain of radio stations, has an answer.
Very simple. Number one, the Negro traditionally has never been a part of the community. You have to have a certain kind of patriotic pride in a community to take part in what happens in it. Negroes have been excluded by segregation and fear from participation in local things, and for this reason, there is this low level of interest in taking part.
Yes. You gonna vote in this election?
I'm gonna vote for who is for me. And I'm trying to gain. I told you I got 4 kids. It's not but the same women, but they're children. And I'm the father of children. I'm a young boy, and I feel as though I had an opportunity, but I wrecked it. But I'm trying to correct this. But now you ask me another question, I answer for you.
I have stopped voting since year before this. I don't vote anywhere.
Why?
Because I don't want to. I don't want to be mixed up with anybody.
The franchise that we have does work. But the majority of people are too damn lazy to exercise that franchise.
There can be little interest in voting when you feel the system does not work for you. There is an important exception to the broad pattern of Negro voting which seems to have emerged in the North, where most Negroes vote Democratic. In areas of the South and in border states, places where Negroes have the voting rights of the North within the racial setting of the South, there are almost as many Negro Republicans as Democrats. Now, this older pattern of Negro voting stems back to Reconstruction days. Negroes in cities like Baltimore and Atlanta are frequently Republican, largely in protest, perhaps, against the segregationist-oriented Democratic Party of the South. But the question is whether, through their votes in these places, Negroes have been able to achieve even comparatively meaningful gains. Can Negroes get things done with the power of the vote, even through segregationist politicians? An old-time Atlanta Negro leader, A.T.
Oh,
Walden.
Yes, because when they realize that our vote is sufficient to affect the election, they can change overnight. Some of them do.
Once you develop 1/3 of your electorate,
Atlanta Constitution editor Eugene Patterson.
Then you can't very well offend those voters. You must serve their needs as well as serving the needs of the white voters.
Well, the Negro vote is another vote as far as I'm concerned. We made up our mind.
Atlanta Mayor Ivan Allen Jr.
That Atlanta was made up of citizens and that every man was entitled to an equal right of citizenship. And this was not accomplished, has not been accomplished, is not yet accomplished in all areas.
Do you think the Negroes in Atlanta will vote as a bloc?
No, I don't think that the Negro votes as a bloc. I think he is driven into bloc voting.
The reapportionment of Fulton County, Georgia, 3 years ago, permitted the election of a Negro state senator, Leroy Johnson.
I knew that in order to be effective, I had to not only know what I was doing when I went to the Senate, but I had to win friends and I had to influence people and I had to have support. For I am one person out of 54 members of the Senate, one out of 259 of the total legislature. So far, my relationship with the other members of the Senate and members of the House of Representatives been very good. My first year in the Senate, it was a very formal type of relationship. It was good morning, Senator, good evening, Senator, do you have a match, Senator, and this kind of relationship. The second year, it was a backslapping, handshaking type of relationship. It was a relationship which indicated that you were beginning to get on the inside of politics. It was, I need your vote, Senator, on Senate Bill 106 or 107. This kind of relationship, which was good.
Can a lone Negro officeholder like Leroy Johnson really accomplish anything in a Southern legislature? Jim Wood.
He's a seat warmer. He was supported by the party, supported by the white press, and has done nothing. He has attacked none of the principal problems of Negroes in the South. Jobs, votes, physical terror, lack of justice in courts, etc.
But doesn't his very presence imply something?
Well, it gives Negroes a good feeling.
If Zoom don't get its life together, am I back? Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Now I'm trying to, you know what? They shady as hell. Let me. What's the last thing y'all heard?
It's about Leroy. I forgot who it was speaking on Leroy
I'll
voting.
just go back to the current speaker's entire thing. We switched over from. I'll just go back to the beginning of the segment. Let's see.
No, you had it right. You had it right at the speaker, right?
Yeah, he was calling him a seat warmer. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll just put it back at the entire segment just for the playback.
Which I need your vote, Senator, on Senate Bill 106 or 107. This kind of relationship, which was good.
Can a lone Negro office holder like Leroy Johnson really accomplish anything in a Southern legislature? Jim Wood.
He's a seat warmer. He was supported by the party, supported by the white press, and has done nothing. He has attacked none of the principal problems of Negroes in the South. Jobs, votes, physical terror, lack of justice in courts, etc.
But doesn't his very presence imply something?
Well, it gives Negroes a good feeling, for whatever that's worth. It doesn't put shoes on naked black feet. It doesn't get jobs. It doesn't increase income.
How do you get this?
Well, you get it through attacking the problems. The usefulness of a Negro candidate is to embarrass the political structure he's a part of by reminding the nation through publicity what it isn't doing that it should do and to point up the contradictions. This not only informs the white electorate, but the Negro electorate, and begins this cultural sophistication pattern we have been discussing. It establishes issues that are issues. Today, Negroes do not have clearly defined political issues because nobody, even Negro leaders, are not establishing issues.
In the South, an intensive voter registration drive has added 600,000 Negroes to the voter rolls since 1960, an increase of almost 40%. There are now more than 2 million registered Negroes in 11 southern states, a fact which could have the most profound consequences on the future political structure of the South. Senator John Sparkman of Alabama.
Well, Alabama, contrary to the thinking of a lot of people, Alabama has been pretty forward in Negro registration. As far back as I can remember, I can recall Negroes registering in my county without any restriction, without any holdback, registering just like white people. And I think that was true generally of the state. Now, it's true the Civil Rights Commission picked out 3 or 4 counties in which they found irregularities. The thing we must remember is that it takes an urge to get people to vote. I'm sorry to say that that's true, but it is.
What do you teach?
English, high school English and literature.
Have you ever voted?
No,
Why not?
I haven't been allowed to. I have filled out the application numbers of times.
How many times?
About 10 times over a period of 10 years.
That was Margaret Jones Moore of Dallas County, Alabama. In Dallas County, there are 30,000 Negroes out of a total population of about 55,000. But on the voting rolls, there are 130 Negroes and 7,000 whites. A great number of these Negroes, people like Margaret Jones Moore, want to vote but can't, as the United States Civil Rights Commission has pointed out. In one community, however, Tuskegee, Alabama, the federal government has had an effect. The population is 6-to-1 Negro, but recently, registered Negroes for the first time outnumbered registered whites. Tuskegee is the home of Tuskegee Institute, a fine Negro college, and the Negro population is largely middle class. The whites saw it coming. In 1957, the Alabama legislature afraid of potential Negro political power, gerrymandered the Negro districts out of the city of Tuskegee. But in 1961, in Gomillion versus Lightfoot, the United States Supreme Court ruled that such gerrymandering because of race is illegal. Come November, Negroes will be represented on all major governing bodies in Tuskegee. Many say that in 1960, a call by John F. Kennedy to the wife of Martin Luther King, who had just been jailed in the South, swung the election in Kennedy's favor. Martin Luther King on that call and on the possible effect of Negro voting.
Well, I don't profess to be a political analyst. There are those who contend that as a result of this call, many Negroes felt that he was sympathetic with the Negro struggle and aspirations, and they voted for him. And in many of the states where the Negro vote is the balance of power, it was the Negro vote that carried President Kennedy over. Now, this may be altogether true, and I think if it was true, it demonstrates the power of the Negro vote and that it can be a very significant and effective instrument in any election. I think in the South, it will bring about broader representation from the Negro community, and Negroes will be elected to political positions that they've never been in before. I think it will also free many of the white Southern politicians who are basically right within and have basically good instincts, but who feel that they must go along with certain issues and vote a certain way on the race question because they don't have enough votes, they feel, to merit taking a liberal stand. I think of senators like the senators in Alabama, basically liberal on all of the major issues till you come to civil rights. Senator Fulbright. It's very tragic that this is a man of tremendous vision and foresight, and yet he falls down on civil rights. Now, I think that these men are basically good, sound statesmen, but they are caught in the bind of not having the courage to take a stand because they don't think they have enough votes to keep them going. I think we will free these men from that, and I think on the national scene we will liberalize the total political climate, and I think it will bring an end to the coalition of right-wing Northern Republicans and Southern Dixiecrats.
We know the facts. The church we visited in Mississippi, in which Mrs. Hamer held her kickoff campaign meeting, has been burned. Racial tension seems to exist everywhere, not just in Mississippi. We see the headlines, and we know that in some parts of the nation, the Negro is systematically denied his most basic rights. But we know other things too. That the Negro, once he votes, like any man, votes what he instinctively thinks best for himself. He senses his interests, and he votes that way like any man. There is no question but that many Negroes today, with the possible exception of those in border and southern states, prefer the Democratic Party. Whether Republicans can make any inroads in Negro Democratic strength this year is doubtful, for Lyndon Johnson is a strong Democratic candidate. In the North, however, many Negroes feel themselves to be in a never-never land, unsure which way to turn, uncertain who their friends are, and they don't vote. In the South, largely because of the population ratio, the Negro opportunity in voting and the danger is greater. The path before the Negro, and before those who would join with him, is strewn with obstacles, even with violence. But all over the land, the winds of change are blowing. The direction is certainly forward.
The National Educational Television Network has presented Of People and Politics.
So, ooh, girl, how my water bowl making a guest appearance?
Oh, honey.
All right, so there's a lot to unpack, but before we unpack it, I just wanted to go over briefly some logistical things, just so we can get that out of the way. So I wanted to answer kind of a little bit about how voting works, what's on the ballot, and how often does voting occur, and how often we should be voting. So first, the logistical part, other than finding your state's rules on how to register to vote, you register to vote. Depending on your state, they either send you some information in the mail when ballots are due and all of that. I recently became a Florida voter. Oh my God. It's a completely different world. So everything is different state to state. I have been a Washington state voter since I was 18. And the process there is you register, they send you your ballot in the mail, you fill out your ballot, you put it back in the mail. Voting day, you could go down to the voting place, but no one does that. I mean, there's designated voting drop-off bins, but in Florida, they didn't really have mail-in voting. So everything is, so you got to go in person. And I was like, oh my gosh. So what was it? In August, I went for the first time ever in life to like a real voting place. It was a library. So just make sure you know for your state how it works. Any website you go to, make sure it's GOV to make sure you get the right information. You can check your voter status. I know in Washington, you can check your ballot status. You can track where it is in the processing line. And then, so what's y'all's experience of voting in y'all state? If y'all want to share where you're registered to vote and how it kind of works where you are, because unless you're in Florida or Washington, it could be completely different.
I know in Maryland, you have a choice. You can either get mail-in. You go on the website, the state website, and you are allowed without reason, just because you would like a mail-in ballot, they will mail it to you. They do it with the primaries, and they'll do it with the November election. I have already voted. My son has already voted because I see what's happening at polling places or just drop boxes in some areas. We're not going to do that. So we went ahead and decided, I actually talked to both my sons about it. We became mail-in voters a few years ago, and we'll stay that way. But you can go in person. There are libraries, there are different drop boxes, but it's different from state to state. And a lot of states, we saw gerrymandering starting to happen. And I'm going to hand it over to a colorful story because she in one of them interesting states.
So I come from two interesting states, Texas and Louisiana.
Oh,
so it's a mess down here. I've never done a mail-in vote. I've always gone in person to vote. In New Orleans, when I voted in the Obama election, the first election, it's like you have to early vote. Because I learned my first time voting that if you do not early vote, you're going to get tired and you're not going to want to vote on election day. Because there was a warehouse where everyone went to vote, and that line, we were in line for 3 hours just to vote. And Black people were turning out, like we always turned out in New Orleans. But of course, this was the Barack Obama years. And so it was so much more. And they had closed down multiple polling stations and secluded us to this one warehouse for miles. And I said, never again will I do this. So I started early voting. Well, let's fast forward to a few years later in Texas. Early voting, I have lived in the suburbs of Dallas. since 2012. And I can tell you early voting is a breeze. You walk in, you walk out. And it was life changing. So one of the things that I did learn is if you can find your polling station and you go early vote, you will definitely bypass a lot of the lines, which is why I push on my platform to not wait until election day, because they are closing down polling stations, especially in Black communities, to make sure that people get tired and people get frustrated and they don't want to vote. And so I know y'all got to watch the news, because I know what is happening in Harris County. I know what's going to happen in Dallas County. It is going to be excuse me for my language, a shit show. Because if people, especially in these counties where there are majority Black people, if they wait until election day, these polling stations are already going to get shut down.
Yep.
And there's going to be one for millions of people at a time. So y'all know I push all day long. Do not wait until election day to vote in southern states. And I know we watched a whole lot in the video, and I'm not going to go into anything until it's time, but southern states voting is a totally different ballgame.
I recommend early
I will
voting,
say
I think,
yes,
for any
early
of
voting.
us.
Yes. I know with Florida, it's like some cycle stuff. I have to get used to it because it isn't open till tomorrow. So, so I think I want to put the third question second, because I think they kind of play off on each other, but we kind of have to answer the first question before we answer the second question. So, we know that every 4 years, presidential election, every 2 years in between that is the midterm elections. But depending on where you live, you can have elections every year. And so I'm a person that believes we should vote in all the elections.
Yes.
Agreed.
But the way voting is set up, you don't have to vote in every election. You don't have to vote for everything on your ballot. You can vote every 4 years, only for president. So that's that on that. But how do y'all feel? How often should we be voting?
In every election.
Single time.
Every single time.
Every single time.
Because you leave room for somebody crazy to put an amendment on the ballot that will read like a Klan member, basically. Yes. You leave it open for the Klan to take over. That's my opinion. So right now, what's happening in Louisiana with Amendment number 7, where the amendment to abolish slavery, with the exception of convicted felons or through criminal justice procedures, is reading heinously, where there are confused voters. Yes. And this is in the midterm elections that this is happening. But this has been in the works for some time. And we know that the presidential election should have been the time when we should have started looking at who is proposing certain amendments, who is proposing certain laws to be passed after these election cycles. So you can't just let it go, especially in a southern state. Yeah, I've always heard this phrase, which so goes Texas, so goes the US. And it's so true, because they're testing these laws in the South where they know they can be the most racist and the most bigoted, and then pushing it into Washington to see if they can put it into a federal law. I can go on and on about it, but I suggest people vote in every election and have a plan. You have to know who represents you, who is pushing certain policies. And I think from the video, there was a person who said people don't know about the election process and they don't know what they're voting for. And it's sad because it's become like this fad to not be politically engaged. Like I don't talk about politics.
Oh God. I majored in political science when I got my first degree. So I need to remember that everyone doesn't know. But I think if you are in a state that allows for early voting and you could mail in vote as well, one of the things I didn't realize that I missed, that was a privilege, was when I had my ballot, I had my laptop. So if I was uncertain about anything, I'm looking up these people on what are you standing on? What is this referendum? All that. So if you have the opportunity to early vote and mail-in vote, it is at a great advantage because you're not, fatigued from standing there all day. You're informed about what exactly is on the ballot and what it means. You can take your time. There's nobody looking at you and all that kind of stuff. I have social anxiety too. So, that's just, if you're an awkward Black girl like me, utilize these tools. So we're dipping a little bit into, I'm sorry.
No, I just was agreeing. Research is so important. A lot of people don't know who represents them. They don't know the statistics behind them. They don't know if a judge, like in Florida, DeSatan, yes, I called him DeSatan. DeSatan can, for their Supreme Court, can put them in, but the voters the following year can say yes or no if they want them to stay in. And these are the little tiny tricks and loopholes that they get away with things. And we have to get involved and stay involved. People think that the way that things are set up, they make it seem like it's completely difficult to understand what's going on in the political field. It's really not. They really break down the laws in a way. What is it, a 6th grade reading level for most? If you go on congress.gov and you can, in a very short, paragraph or so, read what the bill is about and what amendments are about and everything else. It's so important because of how it impacts your life. And most of the time, they target marginalized groups and tell us what that video showed was how much they've been drilling forever that our vote doesn't count, we don't matter, anything to prevent us from voting. You heard that, she's a teacher, 10 times went to register to vote. What you gonna say, she don't know how to read? She ain't fill it out right? Anything, any little tiny thing to prevent the Black vote or the marginalized vote from happening, anything. That's why we must vote at every single turn.
And I think it's important that we know the history of voter suppression tactics.
Yep.
So when people think about voter suppression, they may think of literacy tests. My grandfather was an American history teacher, and one of the things that he used to require me to do whenever we would come to visit is recite the preamble. And I was like, so you really want me to recite the preamble to the Constitution every time I come to see you? He was like, well, yeah, it's because at any moment your country may bring back literacy tests. And part of those literacy tests was reciting the preamble to the Constitution. And so that was an experience for me, but I didn't realize how that would morph in our generation, where people are no longer having to recite the preamble to the Constitution. People are getting tripped up when it comes to voter registration, like what happened in Florida. Florida seems to be the go-to spot for voter suppression and targeting Black people. How Black people were getting arrested for voter fraud from the voter registration office telling them that they were convicted felons, they can now vote, getting them registered, giving them their registration card, and now they're arrested 2 years later.
And it's the state's fault. How would that be the person's fault if they go in, they have someone there that says, oh, you're good to go, we're going to register you, or you get your driver's license, you renew your license, you renew your ID, you're good to go for voting, they register you there too. How are you arresting these people like you got the Gestapo behind you? That is the way that they started with, this is the way the new suppression, and notice in the videos, and I wanted to bring this up, it really bothered me. They made sure to fully show each one of those people that was arrested as a, this could be you too, but
Yes.
we're going to hide the faces of all the police officers because they are innocent. But these people, we're going to drag them and embarrass them. And one of the cases has already been thrown out, and I imagine that the others will follow. So every time it's been a movement, they passed that they could vote after being convicted felon, then it was, you must pay all your fees. They start paying their fees, celebrities were paying their fees, and then they start investigating. Now he's at a jurisdiction. He has the AG's office doing this bidding, and it's not their call. But because he gets them in, this is what he's doing. And it does look different. Just like in Arizona, they had a ballot box right in front of the juvenile courthouse. Courthouses have cameras, and they were being harassed, dropping off their ballots, harassed by being followed to their cars. It's intimidation tactics. And I feel like there are not enough people who really understand what those tactics are, where we as Black people have experienced so many different ones that it's like now we have to say it out loud because PWC people haven't experienced it in the same way.
No. And it's so sad because when you see young voters, when you see older voters who watch those type of videos, that deters them from wanting to go vote and say, I don't want to be arrested, even though they've done nothing wrong. They may have never been a convicted felon. They may have never had any issues with voter fraud or voting twice or anything like that. Like they may have voted all their lives, but those type of tactics push this idea that if you vote, you could be arrested. That is a scare tactic and a voter suppression move. And I really would hate to see that be a push against Black people from voting, and it really works. Like right out here in Texas, our election ballots are under investigation and we haven't even voted. We vote tomorrow. Our early voting starts tomorrow. And Greg Abbott has already launched an investigation with the Secretary of State into the election ballots in Harris County, which is a predominantly Black county. How do you launch an investigation and you have nothing to investigate?
But y'all haven't started voting, and he did what?
They're launching an investigation into Harris County, which is a predominantly Black county, for election fraud.
But elections haven't started.
We start tomorrow. And the Secretary of State has done this. Yes.
Paxton, I don't understand how they are allowing people who have criminal charges pending to be in these positions, except for the fact that they are white men. Because I'm not getting it. Just like JD Vance, right now he's under investigation for App Harvest. There are different people who are actively running or in a position of power that should not be there anymore. Why? Right. And you're opening up. How you open something and we ain't even started yet? What happened?
This is okay. I can't. Where have it? Well, let's move on to what's on the ballots.
Okay.
I want to call him some, but I'm not. I don't want to be ableist.
I'm gonna be quiet.
I call him Abby Locks. That's what I call him, Abby Locks.
I was gonna say that. So
I was gonna say that either, but I ain't trying. Ain't no way.
So on the ballot, you'll have the presidential election, obviously, presidents, federal offices in Congress, local Senate and local House in your state. You'll have referendums, amendments to your constitution,
mayor,
the speed limits, governors, sheriffs, judges. There are a lot of things that you wouldn't think you would vote on, but there are lots of things. Can y'all think of anything else other than what I said? Because sometimes I'll be missing stuff.
So Texas has 15 positions for school board up for election.
Oh, school board, yes.
And
board, yes.
I need people to understand that HB 3979, Senate Bill 3, passed in the state of Texas, which bans the teaching of accurate history through any people of color's experience. Like there's literally lines drawn through all of the things that you cannot teach in the state of Texas. What people don't understand is that the school board plays a role in this, and you have to know.
Major role, a
Right.
major role.
There are 15 different districts that need to be voted on.
Yep.
And mine has a challenger, a Democratic challenger for a Republican. And I'm sorry, yeah, the Democratic challenger is challenging our Republican representative. And so, of course, I will not be voting for the Republican who is now our representative for the state's school board position, because these people literally will not let you teach that the Klan is a morally wrong organization. They will not let you teach that.
They make it seem like they are just harmless, dressed up in Halloween costume. They take all of the realness, all of the terror, all of the, and I don't understand why they continue to do these things out of the schools, because at this point, with this generation, right, with the younger generation, start Gen Z, start earlier, we were going to school in mixed groups. And my granddaughter is 8. So imagine being 8, you are used to everything being mixed. You're not used to hearing, you're trying to figure out why they don't want to talk about the violence and everything else. Why don't you be honest? Because the places where they were honest, it made it better for them to be able to vote. And in school systems is that pipeline that they start with Black people, it's moving the bar. So with Black people, with Black students, they start that that school to prison pipeline. They start them young. They start them by putting them in alternative school. They don't want them to teach things. They don't tell parents that you can be involved in curriculum groups. They don't tell parents that they could go and speak at school boards. They don't tell parents where they can find the information. You know, school board members should be nonpartisan, but too often they're mostly PWC. And in some states, they are not elected in, they're appointed. And that makes it worse, because where's the representation? What do? They cancel it all out, correct?
It's a hot mess out here in these streets.
Let's jump into the doc, because I think some of that has to go back into they thrive on our ignorance, because even if positions are appointed, the person appointing them had to come from somewhere. And if we're not keeping track of when that particular seat is up for re-election, and if they're being challenged or not, then you kind of miss your opportunity to change the outcome of these appointed positions. So, and then also you kind of you could possibly miss an opportunity to amend how that operates, because usually that is set up through your state constitution, and through voting you can amend your state constitution. So I think they kind of thrive on us not knowing what's going on, how to work the system.
Yeah.
So we have to, I don't know what we need to do. We'll talk about it, but let's jump into the special report. Thoughts? Anything jump out?
What didn't jump out? The fact that Negro is used like an object.
Oh my.
Well, it was called the Negro voter. So.
Well, it's very interesting. There was a white man who was talking about the Negro voter, and all they wanted to keep hammering was Black people voting in voter blocks, that they only vote Democrat, that they just kept hammering the same thing over and I'm just like, yo, this could have been not even a 5-minute video. It really
Well,
could have.
Well, I just want to say, like, the same rhetoric in 1964 is being used in 2022.
I agree.
And it's
Oh,
like
like,
they're
are we in the
portraying
Twilight Zone?
right.
Like,
So
you
I
could
want also
literally
to
like
remind you-
just change their clothes, put them on TikTok. It's the same thing.
It is the exact same thing. So they're not progressing. So here's the thing.
No.
Like, as I'm listening to this documentary, and I'm tying the two together, and I'm like, is it just me? But when they say things like Democrats have been the only one, Black people have only voted for the Democratic Party, why are they not talking about that? White people have only voted for Republicans. Why are they not talking about since Reconstruction? Like,
yes.
So since Reconstruction, white people were voting Democrat and Black people were voting Republican, and then within the 1960, within the, I think it's the Enlightenment period. I could be wrong. What is after Reconstruction? Progressive. It's the progressive period. During the progressive period, you start to see a switch in the two parties, in the two-party system, where you see more Black people voting for Democrats and more white people voting for Republicans. And so there is some logic into what one of the people said, that there's more progress underneath Democrats. Like, I don't trust them, but there's more progress underneath Democrats than there is Republicans. Republicans are seemingly against Black people, which they have been against Black people for a very long time. Even during Reconstruction, like, there was not this push to say, rah, 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 let's all love each other, and we are created one underneath God, and we all believe the same. It was never that. It was
say it, they don't mean it. They say it, they don't mean it.
Right. It was never about wanting to have real equality and real equity.
No.
And it was just all for their certain political gain at the time. But now you see there's a real push where they racialize our vote, they racialize our issues, and they talk about how we only vote Democrat and we only push for Democrats, and we don't ever really talk about how we don't vote, why we don't vote Republican. Like, why? Like, there's decades, like this video even shows, there are decades of why Black people have not been voting Republican. And I understand why people who are not voting Democrat or Republican and not voting at all, because they feel like they're not getting anywhere. But I wish they would have showed names at the bottom. But the guy who said that there is no agenda in our community where we can vote as a voting bloc, where we can make the biggest change as a community, really stood out to me, because we do not have a community agenda. We do not operate as a full community, and which is why our vote has been split. And you have Black Republicans. Why? I don't know. Why you have Black Democrats who are still not voting. Why you have unaffiliated people who vote, who don't choose to vote at all. We are not unified as a group. And I think that as powerful as our vote is, until we have an actual agenda and we can actually come together as a community and understand that there is power within our vote, and we can put our power behind a particular group of people, not necessarily a party, which I'm gonna go into later. We're gonna have to talk about this, Coco.
No, see, because I believe we need a party, because
everything that they put in place.
I can't do this no more. I can't do this.
I mean, every bit of educating and pointing out, and even I talked about how, like they mentioned in the documentary, what they were basically referring to is every time a Republican gets in office, all of the soft programs we need. As a society, not just black, not just white, we need as a society get sucked out. They only care about themselves as far as GOP is concerned, how they can make money and everything else. We see it. It's right now, it's so plainly in view. You have Democrats who now are like, let's do Reconstruction, let's do the infrastructure bill. Now you see roads getting fixed. Now you see they're so split amongst party lines. That's the other part that I'm tired of. You're gonna tell me that states like Mississippi, which is what, are they the poorest state in the country? You're gonna tell me they don't need roads fixed and everything else, but behind closed doors, you send a letter to the president saying, go ahead and send us this money, but up front you want to posture. This is not the type of politics that benefits anyone. And if anything, it most certainly alienates the Black community even more, where they become more disenfranchised.
Well, they bank on people not being well informed. They bank on people being stupid. So to be perfectly honest, like the Republican Party really does bank on their voters being stupid so that they can keep and push all of these ideas that don't benefit.
Fear mongering.
That's the fear mongering, this white fear that goes on. They're pushing these agendas that their constituents are too stupid to understand. Like, why would you sit up here and say, well, Democrats do nothing for us, but then watch on C-SPAN as your political representatives go on the House and Senate floor and vote against an infrastructure bill that can benefit you? Why would you vote for these?
Or the emphasis, or the let's add to that, letting Medicare be able to negotiate pricing, the insulin, $35 for insulin, stuff like that. You watch them vote against your best interests as constituents, but yet you still vote for them. I'm confused with life.
Because at the end of the day, and I've said this over and over, this country historically has always hated Black people. And it has historically hated Black progression. No, but it is a next level for Black people in this country.
It is.
They will elevate any other minority group as long as they can manipulate and become superior to Black people. They will consistently do that. They will uplift any other group.
Yep.
As long as they can be superior to Black people, because the moment that Black people get a leg up in anything, there will always be some kind of policy push to bring down the Black community. And I don't understand why people choose to do this over and over, why they look at everything that could benefit them and then see that it will benefit Black people and say, if they get it, I don't want it. I don't get that. I don't understand
it. Hurts their entire, when you're in the Senate and you're in the House, you're representing an entire state, an entire area, all of that, and you will still, because it's Black people that live there, decide I vote against that. They don't want it. To me, at this juncture, just say that you're a racist and then I can just deal with you.
Thank you.
Just say that you're racist. Just say that you don't want our vote. Just say that you don't want women to have a say. You know, they taught, one person called them seat warmers.
Yes.
Herschel Walker would be the prime example of a seat warmer. He's going to do anything that they say. Mohammed Oz, Dr. Oz, fake Oz, whatever you want to call him. We know that man don't live in Pennsylvania, and he just donated $1 million to his own campaign.
Also, Herschel Walker lives in Texas, and I don't understand why people don't understand how
that
this
has
is just not working. When he decided to start running, he was living in Texas.
Yes.
And I don't understand why people have taken him seriously. But
I don't even know how they take him seriously. He can't put together a comprehensive anything.
People don't take politics and government seriously, so they think it's a game.
Yes.
They do shit like
I worked in
reproductive rights.
And did you see the video of it was a panel of women of different backgrounds, including a transgender woman, and who is Black and trans, and she was talking about how her voting rights, like how the past election impacted her. This is when Donald Trump was president, and this white lady was like, well, I just bubbled in Donald Trump because I thought it was a joke. And so
you bubbled in Donald.
The ladies were like, the other ladies who were from marginalized groups were like, it's such a privilege for you to think that your vote is a joke and for our lives to be impacted by your joke of a vote. Like
Yes.
how does that, like, people don't realize like your life is impacted by politics, whether you want to be a part of it or not, whether you think it's a joke or not. Like I tell people all the time, when it comes to the Black community, our very existence
Yes.
to exist, our very existence as human beings and not property is tied to our vote.
And
it is tied to our vote. The moment that they decide that we are no longer human and we are property again, they can just change that. These people are
and they're trying.
They are trying.
What state is it? I just posted a video on it where Alabama, Louisiana are asking the Supreme Court to narrow what the definition is to be a Black person. That is the equivalent of blood quantum, which Native people, I'm Afro-Indigenous, face. It is dragging us back to 3/5 of a person. And they're doing it without people really paying attention. When I saw it, I flew through the roof and did a video. Pay attention, because that's what they're trying to do. Barack Obama getting into office, this is the trickle down effect that we see happening, that they feel as though they're trying to take over. No one will replace us. And what I find to be deplorable, disconnected, this ain't your land. You act like y'all came here and it was desolate. This land, this entire continent was bustling with indigenous people from different indigenous groups. Y'all came here and now y'all running around saying it's our land. You're not going to steal anything from us. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. Y'all are thieves and we don't have representation. Y'all have been trying to commit utter genocide for hundreds of years. You're playing from the same playbook. Why are we watching a documentary that we could really just update and hear the same things over and over, especially in places like Mississippi?
Look, at this point, if y'all don't understand this is important and very, very pivotal. At this point, our only options are to either go and burn it down for real.
Can we?
Not just in sentiment, but like actually go riot and tear some shit up. Or you can learn how the master's house operates. Get the blueprints.
But how's the master house?
Get some plans. No, don't even use the master to get some plans. When I mean get some plans, know the layout of the house so that when we infiltrate the house, we can do it stealthily, get in, burn it down, and get out. And watch it burn and build something else. We don't have many more options other than to burn it down, infiltrate it using their schematics to their house, or just stay how we are and continue to be and continue to be in this cesspool of whatever the fuck this is.
We can't.
And the idea that people think that this older generation is just gonna die out. I don't care what anybody says. Mitch McConnell has been alive for too long. And
I'm pretty sure
the devil
in 1964 said the same exact fucking thing.
Yes.
Right.
I'm pretty sure they said the same thing. If it was going to die out, it would have died out by now.
Right. And they forget that these people breed children and they raise their children to be in these positions. And you can see these same kids, like we're all on TikTok. So you can see some of these same kids repeating their parents' same behaviors. So when they grow up and little Hannah goes ahead and runs for Senate and becomes the next Marjorie Taylor Greene, we have no one to blame but ourselves.
Like if you think white folk are raising their children en masse to be sympathetic and empathetic to people of color, you are living in delusion.
You are living in delusion. And
like, I don't even know. I was gonna say in fairy tale land, no, you are in delusion.
You are in delusion. And let me give you an example of delusion. Nevada's race. I don't know if y'all have been paying attention to Laxoff and Masto, Cortez Masto. Cortez Masto is the first woman Latina to be voted into the Senate. Here comes Laxalt. Laxalt is basically like legacy legacy politician, but he's crazy as the day is long. He's so disconnected. This man actually, it's on my page. This man actually said that he blames inflation, everything else, because a mom came up to him and said that she had to send her kids to school with water instead of juice. And it's all because of Joe Biden's inflation in politics. I said, this has got to be a joke, and it is not. He is for real.
You know what? I don't really have hope. I feel like too many people who don't have a brain have access to voting power. And I feel like to be perfectly honest, or to run. To be perfectly honest, I didn't realize how intellectually inferior a lot of people were until I forgot who aired it, but it was when Barack Obama was running and they were in Mississippi, and they asked the reason why they don't want the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, and didn't know the difference. The reason why they didn't want it to be passed is because he was a half-breed. No lie. Not because it would benefit them. The man barely had 8 teeth in his mouth. He was on government assistance, and he was mad because Barack Obama had something to do with the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, which he didn't know the difference. But the reason why he didn't want it to pass was because Obama was a half-breed. His words.
That makes I'm so pissed off right now.
It is the most ignorant line of thinking. And these people vote. They vote in droves. They don't care to read the policy. They don't understand the policy. They will vote according to how Fox News and Newsmax and whatever incel network they got out there, and Marry Your Sister network. I don't understand how this even is allowed to happen. Like, these are the same people.
Because they're pawns. They're necessary. How do you protect your interests if you don't have minions running around?
And they don't, they rely on undereducated people. Undereducated. They know that like Mississippi, they have a very horrible school system. Kay Ivey should be, instead of building a prison, she should have been investing in schools. You thief from all the COVID money that they got that they didn't use properly. They bank on these people being ignorant. None of them, a lot of them have never been around a Black person. They've never seen a Black person in person. They live in very rural areas, and they believe about all this high crime and stuff, and they don't have any real connection. And instead of being able to even have the foresight to say, I need to look at multiple news sources, they just consume the one. And they look at Black people in this way, and that's how the half-breed stuff, that's how they insert, and they're trying to insert right now with what they did with the Louisiana and Alabama, trying to say narrow down what it means to be Black. That's another way of inserting colorism and dividing the Black community.
Because they can't do it with gerrymandering through redlining. They can't really do it the way with redlining like they used to.
Right. So now they want to try to divide more. I'm sorry. No, I was livid. And you can think all you would like as a person that because I'm super fair because of the texture of my hair and the way that I talk, that I have a desire. I'm not even white. I'm not even mixed with white at all. My parents are Taino and Black. You will think that I am the least of your problems. You need to be careful. I am the majority of your problem, because as soon as I kick open the door, I'm letting everybody else back in. I used to work in government, and the stuff that I am saying, the stuff I'm allowed to say out loud, I'm saying it from a place of knowing, from a place of actually knowing and being in rooms where I'm the only woman and the only one that's Black, but I'm running it. I have seen these things for myself, but it's another way to divide. I'm not going for it. My concern is if other Black people will go for it. If Black people will say, we're tired of the colorism and the divide, and we'll watch them try to divide us more. That honestly, to me, that hurts a lot.
It does. And it hurts the most when it comes from Black people. And I don't know what is going on with straight Black men and the Black vote.
Lord, help us all.
But what happened? What happened? I don't know what happened. I don't know who hurt them, but
they want to be close to whiteness.
I think we gotta take a moment to be for real, okay? Because we talk a lot about the Black community and our historic issues with being problematic and having internalized racism and being anti-Black. This ain't nothing new. They've been wanting to jump ship.
But this time Black women are saying
they want that in spot. They want that tokenism. They want to be in the in crowd.
And there was a Republican who said that they're banking on Black men to vote for them. I forgot which one it is. Yes. I forgot who it was. I posted a video about it some time ago, a couple of months ago. But he said that Republicans will win with the Black male vote. And I really found that to be troubling. And somebody commented and said, how are you going to take their word over the majority of Black men? And I'm like, okay, so we can have the majority of Black men, but there is a lot of Black men who are jumping ship to the Republican Party. We can go to number one, Mr. Killer Mike, who had the largest platform, to go on Charlemagne the God to bash Stacey Abrams and try to cape for Brian Kemp, who signed a bill.
So let me ask y'all this, because y'all know, look, we all here.
Killer Mike did what?
So look, that doesn't surprise me. And I'm gonna ask this question, and maybe it may surprise y'all, but I don't feel like I'm surprised by this. So we know Black women that are registered to vote, because we all know that there are Black women and Black men that cannot be registered to vote and are not registered to vote.
Mm-hmm.
So Black women that are registered to vote are more likely to vote than Black men registered to vote.
Mm-hmm.
If we were to think about this, for the men that are registered to vote that don't partake in voting for whatever reason, if you were to hypothesize, and just going off our community's climate and our rhetoric that we have in our climate, do you think those men, if they actually participated in voting, would vote the way of Black women, or would they vote vote opposite? Because for me, I would think, am I frozen? Y'all know I'm frozen.
No,
I'm sorry. My mic is hooked up to this camera. This Zoom, but I'm looking at this Zoom, and this Zoom was frozen for a little bit. So, what way would y'all think they will vote? Because I feel like the people that don't vote usually don't have a candidate that they vibe with, but I don't think they would lean towards someone that is more progressive, if that makes sense. I think they would go the other way.
Well,
but I don't know. That's just my thoughts. I could be wrong.
You have a lot of Black men who really don't understand what the patriarchy is. And you have a lot of Black men who look at the patriarchy, they want to be close to it. And what came to me today was the reason why they want to be close to it is because and the way that they look at Black women were dominated by force in the patriarchy down. Black men feel like that's the way you're supposed to do it. We dominate the Black woman, and the Black woman should, so we gonna do this because that's what the white man said that we supposed to do. And I've seen this on like Facebook. The only reason why I have Book of Faces is for family, but I still post what I post and I don't care about their feelings, and they know that. But they are stuck. And now when I look at, I'm not exactly sure where all the visceral stuff has come out towards Black women, left, right.
I think it was it was
Kevin Samuels. Who was it?
Yes, Kevin Samuels did for Black men what Donald Trump did for white people.
Kevin Samuels.
He didn't change their sentiments or influence them, but he made it okay for them to say the quiet parts out.
They can say the quiet part out loud, but now you have Black women who are like, you know what? We'd rather be happy and alone. Y'all threatening us with being by ourselves. That's not no threat. Thank you. Leave. Don't come back. Whatever you on, we not on. Have a nice trip. See you, sayonara. And we're going about business. And Black women, I think this is the first time I've ever really seen Black women start to come together as a collective and be like, we're not dealing with you. We're not dealing with your nonsense. We're not all this stuff you and the podcast crews that want to pop up speaking down towards Black women and stuff like that, or mad because Black women are out here doing things that they don't want to do, like build businesses and put in the hard work and stuff like that. We're not dealing with it. We're not dealing with them. So now they're trying to figure out where we go from here. We'll go find Becky with the greasy hair.
So I think we will have the majority. I think we will have the majority of Black men voters, but I think there's going to be a large number of Black men who jump ship, who will not vote for the Black community. So here's why I say that. We all know how white women have voted historically in the past couple of elections, right? So as we look at the way that white women voted, like more white women voted for Trump than they did in 2020 than they did in 2016. More Black men voted for Trump in 2020 than they did in 2016. And so Black women still held the majority of the Democratic vote in 2020. We still held on strong. Black men also, let me go back. All minority women, all marginalized communities that had women voted majority Democrat. But their men started to jump ship. And I think that goes back to the saying that some Black men want to be, some Black men are the equivalency to white women. They have the same
Sambos. Go ahead and call them a Sambo. I do. Sambos. Dance one Sambo, dance. That's what it is.
I can't. I
could do it.
So their voting block. Some white women want to be equal to white men, and some Black men want to be equal to white men as well. And so with these two racial groups and two gender groups wanting to be equal to the dominant oppressor, I can see where we will lose a majority of those who we need on our side to make sure there is progression in the Black community. I think my biggest issue is I'm so disappointed in those men who have let the Kevin Samuels, the Killer Mikes, the Kanye West, all of them influence the way that they will politically vote. and how it will impact them. And then the saddest part about that makes me so frustrated is they will look to Black women to come save them.
And Black women have said, we are not saving you. And I'm with you. I just did a video and I put a challenge out to PWC women. And I said, now, more of y'all voted. It went up for Trump in 2020. You thought we weren't looking, we were. Will you vote in your own best interest when you're in a booth by yourself this go round? The numbers will show and we will know. And the same thing goes for Black men, but also realize that in 2020, it was Black women and natives.
Yes.
They
on horseback
and
on
broke
horseback.
it and broke. They did not expect. They came out and broke 2020. It was those two groups. And now I'm looking, I don't see a lot of Native people deciding that they're going to vote Republican in that way. I don't hear a lot of Black women saying they're going to vote Republican in that way. I do believe that the states that have abortion rights on the ballot, that may be a game changer for some areas. Kansas was a big indicator of that, because even white men were like, I'm not telling, I got daughters. Now that may be the only part that really gets to them. The other
they got mistresses.
Correct, where they need to. So the other part is, are you really willing? How much are you willing to sell your soul for? But Kanye West ain't talking about politics. He's sounding like he's lost his mind. Killer Mike, I have
medication.
He don't have no kinfolk that love him. He don't have no kinfolk that love him. I saw his interview on Drink Champs. Noriega gave him an opportunity that nobody else was giving him. Once he hit anti-Semitic, it was even worse. I'm not understanding how you come from a family that fought for Black people and your peoples were Black Panthers and you saying this stuff out your lips. You got 4 half Black children and 2 of them are young boys.
Because he has 4 half Black children.
But I'm gonna tell you,
because he has 4 half Black children. And
as a person,
no. But who's he halving with?
Right.
Who's he halving with?
I think we got to look at the partner that he chose to have these half Black children with.
It was a co-opting caricature version of Black women that he chose to have children with.
True.
So there is a difference.
That's what it is. It's like, you must hate.
He called her the Black Marilyn Monroe. That's what he called her, or the white Marilyn Monroe, or whatever, the Marilyn Monroe. That's what he was.
Whatever.
No, ma'am.
But it's just, okay.
He's not with her anymore. I wish that.
I know we're going off on a tangent.
Sorry.
No, we're good. We're good. I just feel like we're losing in certain places. Like, I personally think that we have an opportunity to win these elections. Like, I really do, because Black women are coming out strong. The young people are coming out strong. Like, young people are going to turn out the way that they did during the Obama election. I really do believe that, because we have.
I was so sad I couldn't vote in that, y'all. I turned 18 in January after that, and I was heartbroken.
Oh, I turned 18 2 years before that.
I'm older than both of y'all, so.
Sorry,
but I just, that election, like, we showed up in droves as young people. We were we were in undergrad. We were showing up. We were making people mad. Like, we were registered. We were ready to go. People were talking to us about politics. My political science class was phenomenal, telling us to vote. My American government class in high school was phenomenal. We knew about Barack Obama before he even ran. That is how much we knew. And our teacher predicted, it was so funny. She said, our teacher predicted this. She said Hillary Clinton is going to run against Barack Obama, but she will not win because America will vote any man in before they will vote a woman in. And she said, if he wins, and let's say he serves 2 elections, she will run again and she will lose again because no matter who goes up against her, no matter how much her qualification, how many qualifications she has, they will elect a man, an imbecile, before they elect a woman. And I was like, how is it that my high school's education American government teacher predicted 2 elections? Like, girl, you knew.
Because she knew history. She knew the white community. She knew that's the way of the land. That's just that's just what it's gonna be. Like, until we actually get enough people to be aware of what is actually going on, they're gonna keep slipping ones by us.
I think we need to get rid of moderates because I think that moderates are the reason why we keep having the status quo situation. Like, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Uncle Joe has shocked the hell out of me these past few months.
Man,
I'm not gonna lie to you.
Brandon, I like Brandon. He ain't no
Uncle Joe really is with the stuff. And I'm with him. I'm with him. He wasn't my first, second, third, fourth, nor fifth pick. I just want you to know. But he is shocking me in ways that I did not know could exist. However, he is still too moderate for my type. And I would like somebody a lot more radical that will say, damn them extremists on the right. We want to pass this, and this. We don't care about your feelings. Get over it. Go back to Canada, Ted Cruz. Get out of our business. And I just want you to know we're going to pass these bills to make sure that real change can happen. When these Republicans get in office, they don't care about moral compasses. They don't care about nothing. They play them games when they lose.
They've already said that all they care about is winning. That's all that they care about is
Democrats like to play the game of being the moral high ground, and they don't know how to get in the ass of Republicans. Now, let me tell you something. When Uncle Joe decided that he was going to tell Donald Trump to shut up on the national stage, that was the first sign of Democrats trying to say, you know what, we're going to clap back a little bit. Then Uncle Joe, whoever is running the White House Twitter page, whoever is running that, they need to keep him or her in office, running that page with the clapbacks and letting them know the Republicans don't want student loan forgiveness. Here's all of you all who accepted forgiveness for these PPP loans. Let's keep that same energy. Let's keep it going. We need more people who are Democratic to say, you know what? Damn your feelings, Republicans. We're going to pass these policies because you know what? People like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, Ted Cruz, John Cornyn, Tim Cotton. I think that's his name. No, Tom Cotton. All of them will spew racist rhetoric with no remorse.
And act like it's not racist.
And act like it's not racist. They don't care about moral high ground. They will say, we will pass these bills. We will create a Anglo caucus.
Yep. See, that's one thing that I wish Black folk would understand. It's politics.
Yes.
It's inherently immoral. There's no morals here.
There's no morals there.
We gotta play the game. We gotta know.
Because we're getting played. We're getting played because we're not playing the game.
Now, I will say this. Let me say what I have noticed all of a sudden. And I was waiting to see if they were going to start doing it because, you know, the shows, I watch different news. I will even sometimes, if I can stand it, watch Fox if something's coming across.
My nerves too bad for that.
But I mean, I'm an advocate and activist. It's part of the business. I got to know what I got to know. You know what I mean? But I will say this. I feel like now the big guns, since we're getting really close, we've got 15 days till election. Now you got Warnock who came out flying. You got Biden who went to, Dell State HCBU. He wasn't even using the teleprompter. He was busy walking back and forth across the stage, spouting out. He called them. He did an interview with Jonathan Capehart, where he said the the MAGA Republicans, the extremists that don't want to do anything, but we're passing bills without them. Nancy Pelosi also got interviewed and said he ain't man enough to show up for the subpoena, and we have passed this with no Republican support. Now they're coming out.
They need to do more of that. They need to do more.
I think
of that.
they're doing it now because people have short memories.
Yes, people do have short memory, and they need to have a list, and it needs to be on repeat.
Yep.
They need to start. I don't care if they got to start doing TikTok dances. They better get Uncle Joe on TikTok and do something, and just do them little pop-ups with the little green screen and say, "We did this today. We did that today. We passed this. We passed that." Republicans, where are you? Oh, sit over there, boo. Nobody asked you. Listen. I need more of this energy, because that is the only way where Democrats will keep an active base, because younger people do not want to sit up here and play funky bunch with the Republicans at all. They want their bills to be passed. They want to be informed, but they're used to seeing politicians not doing what they need to do. So I wanted to bring up this Democrat out of Katy, Texas. His name is Cameron Campbell. Look him up. His name is on Instagram, it's Vote Coach Cam. He pulled up on the Republican candidate at his office on live and told him he has been seeking for him to debate him for a month, and he has been dodging the debate. This is the kind of energy we need.
Yes.
Pull up energy, because Democrats need to start pulling up on Republicans. Like literally, these congressional leaders, I know when they go to the floor, because I watch it. When they go to the floor, you will hear all this dangerous rhetoric and from the Republicans, and then some of them on the left or the Democratic side will say things like, "This is not who we are," blah, blah, blah. No. This is who we are. This is who we are. This is how we need to change it. This is what we need to do better. We know America is trash and America is racist at its core, but we don't have to stay this way. We can move forward. We don't have to be like these Republicans who are trying to bring back the Klan and put them on pedestals and put them in office. We don't need them. This is the type of language that we need to have, which is why I love Maxine Waters, who doesn't give a damn about anybody and what they have to say. We need more of them who will call them out, who will say, these are the policies we're passing without their support, who will say, if they don't care about us, fine. Forget them. But these are the people who are passing bills for American constituents every day. These are the people who are passing human rights policies every day. I mean, I don't understand. The Republicans have no literal policy they're running on.
They have no platform. And Joe said that this morning. Joe Biden said that this morning on TV. They have no, and they don't have a platform. Huh?
That's what it is. They run it on white supremacy. That's it.
They are, and
that's all they need. I mean, I feel like white supremacy is it's a self-propelling engine at this point.
Yes, it is.
But it doesn't.
The sad part about it is
we've killed it off before. History has shown that they were able at least to suppress it down where it wasn't like it was, and then Black people got free, and here come Black codes, because they don't want them to be in office, and they don't want them to have, you know, every time we build something, they rip it apart, they invade, they gentrify, stuff like that. The energy that I appreciate is how the debate went in Florida with, what's his name? What is his name? Because Marco Rubio, man, whatchamacallit was laying him out. I want that. I want Tim Ryan.
Val Deming.
Yes, I want Tim Ryan, who looked at JD Vance not once but twice in 2 different debates and said, "You're over here kissing the president's ass, and I'm trying to get stuff done." I want the debates that call them out directly, because the bullshit stuff, the niceties of things.
They're looking for that. They are looking for those type of moments where they can't get called out, because the Democrats have always played the moral high ground. Like I'm like, y'all are not morally superior to the Republicans. Y'all can be trash too.
But they need to call that. They need to do the call out, and they do it in other countries. They don't do it here.
Though. That's what they're resting on,
and they need to not rest on that.
To be honest, all the performative things are great, but when it comes down to how they're actually voting, they don't give a fuck about Black people. This is
No,
their mask that they're putting on. It's their mask they put on. Oh, we care about people.
No.
At the end of the day, they vote with the money, just like the Republicans vote with the money.
They vote.
Yes.
They don't care about people.
No, and I don't.
They don't care about
I agree
us.
with that. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. It's just who are we going to go for when it comes to getting actual money? Because guess what? We know, like, there are people who are saying, I'm not voting for either party because neither party is voting on reparations. Just so you know, Black people have worse issues outside of reparations going on. And if you are choosing not to vote because of reparations alone, you will not get anything in this country.
Well, I was gonna offer a solution, but I feel like my solution is too we
Go for it. Go for it. What do we have to lose? Go for it. We have nothing to lose.
We have steps to do before we even get there because we don't even know how voting works. If we don't even know how voting works, my plan ain't gonna work at all. Like,
but what do we do? That's part of, I know on mine, part of pouring out so much is to help people get to those places. I can only lead the horse. I can't force you to drink. You either, I mean, it's as easy as clicking the link in the bio and going right there, how, we vote, we register, how to be a poll worker, how to find your House rep, how to find your Senate rep. We can only do but so much. People have to take accountability for themselves as well. I still feel like the future is women, though.
Yeah. I
still feel that way.
Listen, I would have been fine with Kamala and Elizabeth Warren on a ticket. I would have been fine. Were their policies perfect? No, but I knew that they would have had more change, more radical change than what we have now. And I feel like both of them didn't have an issue with calling people out, which is why I like them when they were running. But I'm interested in hearing this plan, Coco.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, I guess we're gonna dive into it. So this is just based off of a couple of things. One, the two-party system is going to be an all hands on deck thing. The Black community can't do that. So that plan is for America as a whole. We're gonna leave that. We're gonna put a pin in that. So if we're going to work within the political setup, we don't have to only have two parties to vote from, but that's what we choose to do as voters. And also, because when we vote for politicians work for everybody. We're not that big of a portion of the population. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to our issues, if it's something specific to us, it's going to always be passed on because they don't care. But if they did care, in the bigger picture of things, something that helps less than 15% of the population isn't something that someone would vote on. So we need a political party that can rival the Republican Democratic Party that would only be for the interest of Black people. I understand this has to start at the grassroots, we have to start at the bottom. Okay, mm-hmm. We work our way up. It's going to be generations till we get up to maybe some federal positions, but we need to have a party that's going to have advocates and lobbyists that can go on our behalf to say, we'll give you money, you vote for this way, or have systems set up in place to help people that have, been disenfranchised when it comes to voting and getting them to where they need to be when they need to be there. Basically what Stacey Abrams did, but across the entire country.
Okay.
Same or better.
We need to have people that are in the party that will run for city council, mayors of small towns, any position anywhere in any state, any city, any county, and get, obviously we have to grow the party, get the funds together so we can compete. They've had centuries to have the Democratic and the Republican convention. So I think we need to have our own convention. We need to work our way up to that.
But we're not unified enough to do it.
The only way that is going to work, again, one, we have to know what the fuck we're doing. But two, we all have to be able to be on one accord in the sense that we're all going to support this party and we're going to support and participate with the party. So we're going to have it so that we're hearing all of our issues. And we're going to have to prioritize which issues we're going to want to put our force and our money behind. But I feel like that's something to start in the future. I think now, because watching the documentary, it reinforced to me that we're still in the same exact place. And so we need to start where they were trying to start and complete the work they were trying to do before we try to materialize our political power. Like, we have it already. It's like, I don't know how, the Big Bang, how everything blew up, nothing had form.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then it started to come together and create planets in the solar system, that kind of stuff. So it's like, we have the political power. We just need to learn how to wield it. And then once we learn how to wield it, we can start building more political power.
I think that I support all of that. And I feel like 2020, hearing how many Black women really came out and said, nope, and stood on that, I think that we may have a starting point of what you're saying. And that's why I keep saying, I think just like a colorful story, I'm older than y'all, leave me alone. I was in African-American lit in college, and I will never, ever forget this professor I had. I will never forget the things I learned, but there was one particular lecture she gave, and that was the decentralization of America. And what we would start to see, now mind you, I was in my 20s, I'm 44 now. I was in my 20s, and she was saying, you're going to start to see the decentralization of America. There are more Hispanics coming in. We don't like to be called that. Please don't call us that. But anyways, there are more minorities starting to come in, and there are more minorities starting to step into different spaces and stuff. And you're going to start to see white people, their populations start to shrink. The other groups' populations start to flourish. Call it kismet, call it what you want. But the only thing she didn't explain, which I was not truly anticipating, number one, I wasn't sure if I would exactly see a Black president in my lifetime. Remember, I was in my early 20s. I wasn't sure if I would see a Black president, hoping. I wasn't sure if I would see a woman in either the president or vice president position. Forget that she's a mixed woman, right? Black. I didn't think I would see those things. But now that we are starting to see them, I'm like, okay. The second part to that is the painful power struggle, the nasty low blow, just the Republicans have zero. They have no platform. They have nothing. They are running on the same things they always ran on. And I posted statistical data today that shows they are lying through their teeth and using deceptive methods. But I did not bank on how hard they were going to try. They came out swinging as Trump got into office. He was just another puppet. All the redlining, all the tax breaks for major corporations, everything else, they don't want to look at the trickle-down effect. What you do in one administration trickles down into another. And so you watch Biden, almost the first whole year of his administration, deal with all the stuff that Trumpelstiltskin decided he didn't give a damn about. He didn't care about people losing their lives to COVID. It was fake. All of these types of things. Now, cleanup has been happening, and now we have races going on. And my concern is 200. Number one, we saw January 6th. I will never forget January 6th and watching it unfold before my eyes. in my entire life, along with Black Lives Matter protesters being attacked violently in that same kind of square. I won't forget that. But I do feel like there is an opportunity and a shift is on the horizon. We have to keep pushing. And if we have to leave, everybody can't come. And that's the reality. Some Black people are going to choose the way they're going to choose, and we have to leave them there. Like Harriet Tubman.
I would love to see the day where, like, we know how the numbers are for Black people voting for Republicans. I would love to see those same numbers for Democrats at the same time.
Yeah,
because we're doing something else.
Yes.
That's what I want to touch on something you said, Coco. So going back to what you said about, you know, having a candidate that speaks specifically to Black issues. So we will never have what they had in the 1960s, which is a Black candidate or a Black leader pushing a Black agenda that benefits mainly Black people, because that benefits only Black people. Everything that benefits Black people will inadvertently end up benefiting every other marginalized group.
Well,
because
it has to.
It's
we're
going
intersection,
to. So where there's
but I mean, I
several
also
intersections.
want to point out that a lot of outside of systemic racism, and we can try to figure out where that is. It's definitely in policing and the criminal justice system. Anyway.
At this point,
a lot of the Black community's problems come from poverty.
Yes.
So when you address poverty things, it helps everybody.
Yes.
Now, for me, I would love to be a socialist one day.
Listen, I'm down for the socialist movement.
And so, I mean, I know politically
it works in other countries. It can work here.
We just have to do it right. I think politics globally is still about power grabs, and they like to implement whatever gives them power. And I would love to see the day where politicians are less concerned with power, but I don't know if I'll see that in my day either.
Right.
But I definitely think a lot of the things that are problematic in our community, even though within our community it's very specific and we can adapt it to our view, like our view of poverty isn't the same as a white person's view of poverty.
Right.
But addressing the poverty, I think that would be and I was thinking about that too, like even if running on like, how could we compete on a ballot with a Republican and Democrat? If you start speaking, and plus there are some people that love to follow Black folk no matter what, they love us. It's creepy and fetishizing sometimes, but they'll follow us. But I think if we play the game,
we have to play the game though.
This may be something that we want selfishly, but there's a certain way you package things, there's a certain way you say things, there's certain places you say it, there's certain things you do to get attention to certain people where we can essentially not use them because it benefits them. But if we package it right, we say it right, we can sway people that are tired, that are because fathers they tired of the shit too. That's why they don't vote. And that's why the young ones don't vote either. If we could package it in a way that is palatable, that puts our issues at the forefront, but it's palatable to everybody else, I think we got people buy into it.
So the thing is, I'm looking at a sample ballot here. We have libertarians, we have the Green Party, and we have independents on our ballot for the 2022 election. None of them people matter at this point. Because, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I haven't heard anything about these people. They're not bigger than the Democrat or the Republican Party. They just now started pushing their agenda within the past couple of months. They haven't been on the ground like Beto has been on the ground for the past 2 years, like Stacey Abrams. Other parties, if you want to create a new party and you wanted to actually make some noise and get to some of these debates and push some of these issues, you got to play the long game. You have got to play the long game.
That's what I'm saying. This is going to take generations. This is not going to take 20 years. This going to take a while. This might take longer than America is a thing. So, but we have to do the work. It doesn't.
And we're not there. We're not there. We lost
Right.
the whole
We
generation.
can't even start the work because we're still debating on whether or not we should vote because we don't want to side with the blue or the red. And it's like, okay, but for now you have to learn it and to play the game enough to be able to compete. We have to do the work consistently.
Right.
And we're not there.
And what we need to do is put our right, but we're not operating as a community because we're not a monolith, and we haven't operated as a community for a very long time because they keep killing and exiling our leaders. So I will say that until we can actually get behind a leader and a cause, we will not progress as a community. So
why does it need to be? I think that's part of where we get stuck at is people go back and they're like, first of all, it hurts my soul that they leave out so many women of color that have made so many strides in these arenas.
Yes.
They fail to recognize them. They always want to talk about Martin and you always want to talk about Malcolm. And I don't take anything from either one of them. But there were also Black women out here doing the work, doing the thing. They were organizing too. It wasn't just Dr. King and the Big Six. It wasn't just Malcolm. There are women and they don't talk about them.
They don't because they're Black women.
Yes.
So my thing is, like you said earlier, we could actually shift the change with Black women being at the forefront. So like Stacey Abrams is going to be one to watch, not just as the first Black governor of Georgia. She is going to be one to watch. Kamala Harris, regardless if she runs for president or not, she is still going to be one to watch in politics. Then who else is it? For all those that actually hate the squad, those members of the squads are actually one to watch because
they are
as they are in these positions and in these roles. There are younger people who are being more radicalized by their movements in a positive way and wanting to see more of a progressive push for legislation. And they're not down for the moderates. So we have to watch these women who are currently in political office and make sure that we put our support behind them. So like people like the Kamala Harrises, the Stacey Abrams, the Cory Bookers, the Julian Castro, all of them, we have to start picking candidates and putting our money behind it. So here's why I say this. After this election is over, and I'm gonna have to go in a minute because I got a little one, but after this election is over in November, we can't stop there. We have to start with the 2024 election, not just the presidential election, because our senators, that's what I'm talking about. Our senators need to go in Texas. We have John Cornyn and Ted Cruz. So whoever is going to be running against Senator Cornyn and Senator Cruz in 2024 needs to start as soon as November 8th and start challenging their rhetoric and start doing the work, getting people registered for the 2024 election, making sure that they're talking about their policies. Like you have to start making your name known years in advance if you want to get there. People like Marilyn Mosby, when she was on the Freddie Gray case, she was one to watch. She was an attorney to watch. And she may have her issues. Yes, she has her issues going on and it's fine. But at the same time, I would not count her out.
Do not count her out. She went against Hogan publicly, and right after that, Hogan attacked her.
Women are facing so much backlash for so many things, but they're still being persistent. They're still coming out on top. Especially Black women, they're out here challenging. They're out here making their names known. They're out here showing their policies. And I think that now is the time to keep the conversation going, making sure we know who's running, who's one to watch, who's on the grounds, who's making these decisions. Like Jasmine Crockett out here in Dallas, she is one to watch for whatever position she chooses to run for, whether it is a U.S. Senator in a few years, because she's running for her position at the state level this year with Beto. But if she chooses to run at the U.S. Senate level, she will have that backing, and she will have her name known already across the state of Texas, so that we can have somebody go up against a John Cornyn or a Senator Ted Cruz. My biggest concern is that Black people as a whole need to take their vote and strategize and understand we have to play the long game. The reason why Republicans overturned Roe v. Wade is because they played a 50-year game. They did not care that they lost for 50 years. They waited and they waited and they did everything that they could to try to stop Roe v. Wade, but they played the long game. They started putting in those judges. They put an idiot in office who would do anything that they wanted to do. They did all of this work, and then it finally paid off. That is the smartest thing Republicans. That is the smartest thing move that Republicans do.
Yes, but it paid off because the Congress failed to codify those laws, and it bit them in the ass. And they excuse my language, they sat back. Republicans watched them. They knew they needed to codify that. There were laws they knew that Congress knew they needed to codify, and they failed to codify. Now they're playing catch up. Now they got to figure out, can we save same-sex marriage? Can we push to now they're talking about a nationwide ban on abortion.
Right. Because what Republicans don't care about is they don't play these short-term wins.
No.
They don't play these short-term wins, because when they do win, they win big and they win hard. They never wait until they never sit up there and say, well, we lost and we just gonna give up and we just gonna play nice. They've already come out and said if they win for the midterms, they are going to make it hell to pay for Democrats and anybody who votes Democrat. And Black people need to pay attention, because if they get one more seat, all they need to do is flip one seat. All they need is one seat, and we are screwed. I don't understand how people are not seeing that this is a big thing, and how they're. If Mitch McConnell becomes the Senate Majority Leader, y'all, we think we're not getting anything through the Senate right now. We ain't getting shit.
Nope.
We ain't getting shit.
And then Kevin McCarthy wants to be Speaker? No.
Yes, Kevin McCarthy.
We're gonna talk about it on the 6th, because on the 6th we're discussing the midterm elections, and we're gonna get into it. So let's do 30 seconds to wrap up, and then I'll let y'all ladies go for the evening.
Okay.
I don't know who wants to go first.
I'll go first. I'll wrap it up.
What would you say to Black voters across the United States of America?
Black voters, get up, get out, and vote. When you get ready to vote, like Texas, I'm talking to you because this is where I'm at. Tomorrow is early voting. Tomorrow is October 24th. You need to make sure you have a plan. If you are not going to vote between October 24th and November 4th, which is all early voting, where you could just walk right in the door, and you are going to wait until the last minute to vote on election day, bring your snacks, bring your water, bring your chairs, get you a porta potty. Take your day off. Take 2 days off, because you may be there until 3 o'clock in the morning. Black people, you do not have the opportunity to play around with this election, because you think Roe was the end of it. It is only the beginning. They are already talking about same-sex marriages. They are already there's already an issue with voting rights. They are not talking about trying to fix police reform. If you think that we are not getting anything now, and we're not making any changes while the House has been passing these bills, because they are passed in the House, they just haven't gone through the Senate. If you think that we are not getting anything done now, just wait until Republicans take over everything. You will rue the day that you let them win, because you sat out this election. Do not sit out. Get up, get off your ass, and go stand in a line and vote.
All I have to say is I concur. Go vote. It doesn't even matter. What I need people to understand, you don't have to agree with the policies and the politicking of every single candidate. You're not your people. You're not always going to agree with every tiny thing. Get that out of your brain. Can you also get out of your brain the fact that they have fed into it for centuries that your vote don't count? It does. If it didn't, they wouldn't be so damn afraid of it. They are afraid of Black people being in office. They are afraid of marginalized people being in office. And they use the same talking points over and over and over. And at this point, right now, with this particular election, their non-platform having is so in your face, where you have Democrats that are behind the scenes doing stuff. I do want to see, you know, when you go to other countries have more than a two-party system. And if I could watch in the UK, them get rid of their prime minister in 44 days because she wasn't doing what she was supposed to be doing, 44 days. And that's a white woman, 44 days.
Listen, we could really turn up. We really are playing.
Stop it.
Playing.
Y'all, we could do this. If we did it, don't just do it because of the color of the person's skin. Do it because you care about democracy. Because the main thing that's on the ballot this time, whether you realize it or not, is not just our autonomy. They're trying to drag us back to a time period where women didn't have rights, Black people didn't have rights, and we're steady rolling backwards because these people only know one playbook. Get out there, even if you don't want to, and vote. Especially on the referendums and the ordinances, get out there and vote. Hold your nose as a Republican and vote for that Democrat, knowing that your Republican person is wrong. Because like a Carrie Lake is out of her mind. You have to participate, have to, if you want to see the changes. It's the only way it happens. 2020 should have proved that to a lot of people in our community.
With that, I say, get your ass up and vote. People for you to have the right to sit at home and sit it out because you don't want to. I ain't gonna say no more than that. Other than catch me on the 6th, we'll be talking about the midterm elections, and we should have some information about early voting and where we're sitting at early voting, and prepare for voting day on the 8th. And yeah. Bye, YouTube.